Welcome back, fellow folklorists, to another episode of GRIMM Digital Folklore, where we take a look at the inspiration and tales behind your favorite games. For a game about a ninja, Sekiro spends very little time elaborating on the many varieties of items and tools available to use during the game. At first glance, it's easy to write many of these tools off as fantastical creations of the game, but there's a lot more truth to them than you may think. Many of these tools had actual connections to the time period, as well as connections to Japanese folklore as a whole. So get out your utility belts, because today we are taking a look at the items in Sekiro. Let's start with the item that is used more in Sekiro than any other, the healing gourd and its variants. For what at first seems like a fairly utilitarian item, these gourds actually have a much greater connection than simply being used as water bottles. That said, the first thing that makes gourds so important to Japanese folklore is that they can carry water. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but gourds are actually directly linked to the Japanese creation myth because of this. Back when Izanami gave birth to Kagutsuchi, the god of fire, the flames within his body burned Izanami horribly, eventually leading to her death. In anger, Izanagi slew Kagutsuchi, and his death gave birth to myriad other kami, including Kura Okami, Taka Okami, and Kura Mitsuha, all of whom are kami I discussed in my video series about the Fountainhead Palace and the Divine Dragon. However, in an account in the Ingashiki, Izanami managed to survive to birth a few more gods before passing. In this account, Izanami gives birth to the water kami, Mizuhame, and instructs her to pacify Kagutsuchi when he becomes violent. In addition to another water kami, this account also mentions the creation of clay, gourds, and water reeds. This is because traditional firefighting in Japan used gourds to carry water while using reeds and clay to smother the flame. So these tools were vital to survival in Japan, where most buildings were made of combustible materials. Sekiro doesn't carry a gourd full of ordinary water with him though. Instead, almost every gourd he carries seems to be capable of dispensing a kind of medicine that seems to refill whenever he rests. This trait is also a connection to Japanese folklore and is part of why gourds were also seen as symbols of good luck. You see, some accounts talk of Tengu carrying gourds with magical properties such as producing powerful medicine or elixirs. But the idea of a medicine-producing gourd actually goes back much further to Taoist beliefs, as one of the 8 immortals, Li Teguai, always carried a gourd with him that was capable of dispensing medicine that could cure any ailment. Given how popular Taoist beliefs were at one time in Japan, it's pretty easy to see how this item became introduced to Japanese folklore. Speaking of the gourds Sekiro carries, the next item I wanted to look at is the 5-color rice. Though it is the only gourd that doesn't store medicine, it is still an item that is tied to Japanese history. While in-game the item is only used as the Sekiro equivalent of the Prism Stone, it was actually said to have been of use to real-life shinobi. In fact, this isn't even the first From Software game to include this item, as it also makes an appearance in the Tenchu games. Literally translated as Goshiki Mai, the 5-color rice were actually a collection of different colored rice that proved useful as a secret code among shinobi. These rice were each dyed one of 5 colors, primarily blue, yellow, red, purple, and black, and then left in discrete but predetermined locations. By arranging the rice in order, they could create an alphabet of sorts so that they could relay messages. These messages wouldn't appear obvious to passerby, and the dye used in the paint deterred any animals from bothering them as well. After receiving the intended message, a shinobi could easily scatter the rice to erase the message, which would then decompose quickly. Given how useful this would have been to shinobi, it's no wonder that such an item was included in Sekiro. That said, I have to wonder if maybe it would have been better served as a kind of soapstone to relay messages between other players than as a prism stone. Next in Sekiro's inventory, we have the Mibu balloons. These paper balloons seem to closely resemble toys known as kamifusen, which literally means paper balloon. These toy balloons have been popular in Japan since the 1900s. Although not traditionally used to hold water, these balloons are known for their unique ability to inflate when bounced, despite the hole in the top. These toys were originally made by the wives of fishermen, so it's not surprising that in-game they seem to be tied to Mibu Village, which clearly seems to be a fishing village. It may also explain why Badger would have given one to his son as a gift, since they were popular toys for children. Unlike the real thing though, the Mibu version seems to have an added religious importance as well. In a similar vein, the next two items are both also related to spirituality in the form of the spirit emblems and the Illusive Hall Bell. I know the emblems are technically more like a form of currency, but I'm going to count them just because of how interesting they are. These pieces of paper seem to closely resemble the form of something known as shikigami. Shikigami were a type of minor kami that were said to be summoned by a special priest known as an onmyoji, who were experts in divination. These shikigami were said to be invisible most of the time and could follow simple orders, but they could also be bound to small paper mannequins like the spirit emblems. By comparison, the spirit emblem's description in the game says that they harbor the souls of the dead? Really? So Sekiro just kills people and then uses their souls to power his weapons? But wait, if we believe that spirit emblems are souls and you can buy spirit emblems, that means you can buy a soul for as low as 10 yen. That makes the canon price of a soul in Sekiro worth less than a penny even at its highest. Or it would be if not for the other description of spirit emblems. Fortunately, the skills better explain the spirit emblems as manifestations of regret, which is a fitting description for the shikigami that tend to cling to Sekiro. Since we know that shinobi are weighed down with the karma of those they kill, this means the spirit emblems are the lingering regrets of Sekiro's victims, which explains why they seek him out single-mindedly. As for the Illusive Hall Bell, it is a special kind of bell that is usually used in combination with a tool known as a vajra. The bell itself is actually half vajra, with the top resembling the vajra's round ends. Taken together, these two items mean far too many things. Seriously, I could make a whole video about the symbolism of the two items together and still not cover everything. Instead, I'll focus on its more mysterious powers which seem to be related to the bell in particular. In Buddhism, the bell itself is said to represent the void from which all things emerge, and the clapper represents form. This makes the chime symbolic as it emerges from nothing after being given form by the clapper and radiates for a time before returning to nothing, just like every other phenomenon in existence. Given this interpretation, it would make sense that it is also capable of returning monkeys and wolves to their original states, as well as bringing Sekiro to the Hall of Illusion in the first place. With the spiritual items covered, that leaves us with a category that covers one of the widest variety of items. These are all items that seem to be related to ninja medicine and/or Japanese Kampo, which was the Japanese study of Chinese medicine. Some of these items are fairly easy to identify and research, while others have me stumped, so I will start with the ones that I'm more confident about first. The first of these items is Bite Down, and its related item, the Hidden Tooth. Both of these are said to consist of a secret ninja poison that is capable of killing whoever ingests it. However, the color of the poison would suggest that at least one of the poison's ingredients is cyanide. Though cyanide is usually colorless or white when used as a poison, it is named after the Greek word for dark blue and is used for the creation of the dye Prussian blue. Cyanide was once a popular poison for how quickly it could kill. It does this by binding itself to hemoglobin and enzymes in the cells, which prevent your body from receiving oxygen, leading to respiratory failure in a short period. The speed with which it could kill is no doubt what led to many in dangerous situations carrying the poison on them at all times, eventually even going as far as to hide the poison in a false tooth. In practice, the false teeth were designed only to release the poison when crushed, so that those who swallowed the tooth accidentally didn't have to worry about releasing the poison inside. Though if I were Sekiro, I would probably be more worried about how long Hanbei kept that thing in his mouth. It doesn't look the cleanest. Other than that, the next few are pretty straightforward. Contact medicine seems to be a kind of poison created using Japanese giant hornets as the main ingredient. As the name implies, Japanese giant hornets are much larger than the average hornet and their venom is fairly potent, though that is mainly due to just how much they inject with each sting. This means the venom could be more accurately dosed in smaller amounts to be fairly harmless, making it perfect for contact medicine. Dowsing powder is another medicine that is used in the game that seems to resemble a kind of root used in Kampo, such as knitbone root. Knitbone root is said to be good at healing external injuries, which would make it a good candidate for treating burns. Eel liver is also pretty self-explanatory, and its power seems to come from the similarity between eels and dragons or water serpents in folklore. In real life though, they are apparently a fairly popular Japanese snack, even if they don't grant lightning resistance. Unfortunately though, that's pretty much all I know about these herbal medicines. It's pretty clear to me that the divine grass, antidote powder, and pacifying powder are all supposed to be similar kinds of medicines as the others, but I haven't been able to make a confident identification from the images. Herbal antidotes and anxiety cures are common though, so it isn't hard to imagine these being different herbs that treat similar symptoms. That said, I'm a folklorist, not a botanist. So if there are any botanists watching who have any thoughts about these items, please weigh in the comments below if any of these look familiar to you. I would love to know what plants they were based off of, if any. With that though, we've covered just about all of the basic items. Obviously there were a few that I didn't cover that I feel were pretty self-explanatory, such as the basic utility items. There were also a couple of items that I excluded because I will discuss them more in depth in future videos. Finally, there's the major category of food that I didn't include in this video because I discussed them in another episode that you can watch next week. If you enjoyed this look into the real items behind Sekiro and would like to see more, make sure to like and subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all my latest videos, and I will see you all next time. Until then, fellow folklorists.